This entitled mom thinks she owns everything in her son's house, and she doesn't care if it'll make them bankrupt. There is no stopping her. Happy birthday, today's your birthday, and on with the revamped show. A bit of background. My mum moved from our little town to a big city in another state 4 years ago to live with my sister after her divorce. My sister could destroy this subreddit with her entitled mum stories over that time. But I've seen her 3 times in that 4 years. Neither of those times were pleasant. It wasn't like that when she left. The first time is entitled, but not as bad as the second. My wife smokes. We're on a pretty strict budget, and a part of that budget is buying cigarettes between paychecks. She buys a set amount every paycheck and makes those last 2 weeks. I know, it's a crappy habit, and she's trying to quit. At the time of this first story though, she was smoking a carton a week. We also buy snacks, drinks, and foodstuffs that are specifically for her lunch, so that is budgeted as well. All other food is whatever. But her lunch food is budgeted to last a specific time. This involves her cigarettes and the 12 sodas she drinks with her lunch. 2 years ago, my mum came to visit with my niece. To me, she was a different person. When she came back, she was rude, always making snide comments, really getting on us about things we do and how we do them, mostly to do with the kids. When she got here, she asked for a soda. We had 2 extra and said yes. We offered to get more if she was going to have them, so we wouldn't break into the lunch stock as we now only had 1 extra. She said, "No, this will probably be the only one I have unless I get a fountain." Yeah, that was a total lie. By the end of the 5 days, she had drunk 8 of the 12 that were there, and we didn't even know she had done it until she left. What was worse is the cigarettes. See, the thing is, my mum also smokes. She had told me she quit when we had phone conversations, and she has done so many times. But when she got here, she started asking my wife to borrow a cigarette. In typical smoker fashion, my wife said, sure. After a while though, she was asking every half hour, and after the first day, my wife said, "I thought you quit. Maybe you should buy a pack?" To this, my mum would say, "Don't worry, I'll pay you back." So my wife felt better. She was okay after the 3rd day, when she had more than a week and a half to go, before she was paid again. And she had less than a carton left because, "Don't worry, I'll pay you back." Which came up again when she was gently nudged with, "Wow, you're smoking a lot for someone who quit. Maybe you should buy yourself a pack or 2? Bless my wife's heart. She didn't want to cause issues. 2 days after that, Mum left. My wife had 10 days left until she got paid, and 1/4 of the cigarettes she'd need to make it in that amount of time. But don't worry, Mum paid her back with 1 single pack. My mum had legit smoked at least 8 packs of cigarettes and paid back 1. To top that off, we discovered the soda was gone too, and my wife was ticked. Between her rude comments and this crap, I was still very annoyed at my mum for how she felt entitled to our stuff. We had little money and replaced what she needed. This is part of what made us stand our ground on the next thing. The 3rd time my mum visited, we were actually looking forward to seeing her as my sister, who I haven't seen in almost 8 years, was coming with her. They had 4 days to be here, and my sister had her own agenda. Part of that agenda was me taking custody of my mum, so my sister and her boyfriend could have a break from my mum. This meant that my mum needed me to take her around to do some errands one day. Part of that was getting stuff from her trailer that was still here in storage, to which I had the keys. Another day was a day we were all going into the mountains for a memorial for my uncle who had recently died. The itinerary was such: Day 1, meet and greet. Day 2, mountains. Day 3, errands. Day 4, depart. The day we were going to the mountains, we discovered that our power steering sprung a leak in our Jeep. We could continue to drive it while putting fluid in, but if we let it get too dry, it would burn the pump out and we'd have to replace it and not just the hose. We have a second car which we drove reluctantly to the mountains. It isn't super reliable and is also a couple of days out of date on its registration, which we had forgotten about. My wife's dad is a mechanic. If we want something fixed, we are at his mercy. If he says, "Come now," we better already be there. That dude is entitled in his own right in a lot of ways. but not in this story. We are super grateful he helps us with our car and do it on his time because he's helping us out. Because of this, her dad tells us we need to be there first thing on day 3 to get it fixed, which is a Friday. If we don't, we won't be able to get it done until Tuesday because of his time constraints. We say, no problem, and thank you very much. When we arrive in the mountains, my mum, sister, wife, and my other uncle are all there. My mum asks us where our Jeep is. We tell her. The following conversation happens. It sprung a leak. We have to get it fixed in the morning. But I thought you were taking me around tomorrow to run errands. We are, but we have to get the Jeep fixed, and he can only do it in the morning. We should be. She interrupts. Why can't you wait? We can just take your car. No, we can't. Its tags are expired. We almost didn't come today because of it. Well, you drove it anyway. Why can't we just take it? I'm only here for a couple of days. You'd think I'd be more important. Mom, you are important, but we have to do it on his time frame. And if we don't do it tomorrow, we have to wait until Tuesday. It isn't going to take very long. Just wait until Tuesday then. I'm leaving Saturday. I don't see what the big deal is. Why can't you just drive your car? At some point in here, my wife walks off super annoyed and trying not to go off on her and ruin the day. She already told you, the registration is expired. She would have to drive it to work, and if she got pulled over, it would be something we can't afford to deal with. It won't take us very long. It's just a hose, and he's doing it first thing in the morning. I see how it is. You said you'd take me, and now you're not going to. I'm only here for a couple of days. I don't see why you can't just drive your car and wait until I'm gone to get the Jeep fixed. Look, Mum, I have to fix it tomorrow. I'm sorry you don't get that, but this is stressing us out already. We need to get it taken care of. There's no reason why we can't still take you. I'm so sorry. Wouldn't want you to be stressed. Whatever. I guess I'll figure something else out. No, Mom, it's fine. We'll still take you around. We'll call you right after it gets done. It shouldn't be more than an hour. My wife and I are ticked. She's acting like we just decided we weren't going to help her and that our little problem wasn't a big deal. A little while later, my sister comes and says, I thought you were taking Mom around tomorrow. I say, yeah, I am. Why? Because Uncle just said she's borrowing his truck. Oh, for goodness sake. I tell my sister, who is mega fed up with Mom's woe it's me pity party bullcrap. Her words. What is going on? My sister just essentially says, take care of yourself first. If she can't understand that, then that's tough. So I did, and that's where I left. I went home and to bed that night thinking I'd go over the next day and get her after what we'd done. Or she'd be out and about in my uncle's truck. Oh, but it gets worse. The next morning, I wake up to this text exchange. Please drop my keys off before you go. My boyfriend came to help, and you can take your Jeep. No problem. Your boyfriend drove up? I just need my keys. Yes, I told him what you had to do and what the others were doing, and he drove all night so he could come help me. If you leave before I get there, drop off my keys. Otherwise, we'll pick him up. Okay, sounds good. So later, I found out that she had gone home, played her woe is me pity party bullcrap song to her boyfriend. He then dropped his whole life and left at midnight to drive the 8 hours to get here. I don't see my mum the rest of that day. Later, I get another text message from her. Boyfriend is going home at 1 a.m. What? Why? He forgot he promised his granddaughter he would take them to the city to a birthday party. He keeps his promises. Emphasis hers, a dig at me. So this dude who is in his 80s left home at midnight, drove all night, picked her up at 8 a.m, spent all day running her around, taking her to dinner, and hanging with my sister, then left at 1 a.m. to go back home. Got back, picked up his grandkids, and spent the day in the city. All because my mum couldn't give me 1 freaking hour. Seriously. It took me 20 minutes to drive there, 20 minutes for him to change the darn hose, and 20 minutes to drive back. I left at 9 a.m, was back at 10 a.m. It wasn't a problem at all. This is the problem when an entitled parent can't see reason. They have something fixed in their mind like this is the way it has to be, and if anything changes the plans, even just a little tiny bit, well, they'll go out of their way to inconvenience somebody else, to be like, well see, it's your fault that this person is now in so much trouble. Do you know what the one thing they don't have on their side is? The truth. If you explain to anybody, all I needed was 1 hour, they'll probably say, well, why did she make such a fuss? Exactly. This happened about a year ago, while I was working during the weekend at a popular grocery store. I worked in the seafood department, and it was about 3 p.m. The whole store was packed and super busy, and I had a crowd of people in front of the seafood counter. I was helping out this older gentleman who wanted cocktail shrimp, which comes in frozen. Important info for this story. The man asked for about 1.5 pounds of the shrimp, so I bagged up the last of the cocktail shrimp from the seafood case, which was already thawed out, and it ended up being 1.33 pounds. The man was okay with it, so I put the tag on and handed it to him. The older lady and little granddaughter came walking up to him, the very front of this crowd of people already waiting, and asks him, "How much of that shrimp did you get?" She spoke to him as if she was agitated with him. By the way the lady approached this guy, I assumed they were together, and she didn't agree with shrimp as part of the dinner plans. I pay her no mind, and I'm waiting to serve the next person in line. The lady then asks the man again, "Did you buy all that shrimp?" And he looks at her and says, "I got 1.33 pounds," and walks away. The lady then turns to me and says, "Do you have more of the cocktail shrimp?" I politely explained, "Yes ma'am, unfortunately I am thawing out another bag since we just ran out in the case. So to thaw it out, it will take about 15 minutes, unless you want it frozen instead." The lady started glaring at me and said, "You're telling me that I have to wait here for 15 minutes? Just to get my shrimp? I don't have time to wait 15 minutes. You should have been prepared." I'm usually a chill guy with customers, even though I get shaken up. So I said, "Ma'am, the guy in front of you bought the rest of the cocktail shrimp that we had thawed. The rest of the thawed are in those cocktail trays over there, but it will still be a little wait before I can have more of the shrimp in the case." The lady wasn't having it, and very loudly exclaimed, "I don't want the cocktail shrimp snack trays, so you're telling me I have to have something thawed out right now. How long is it going to take?" I looked very confused. Only a couple of minutes passed by since she started talking to me, and said, "You're still looking at about 15 minutes. Side note, even though there are other people helping me in the department, taking care of the other customers in the crowd, there's still a small crowd, and they're all staring at her. The lady walks over to the left side of the crowd and goes, "You said 15 minutes. I'm going to wait right here." I gave her the thumbs up and was about to help the next person, and then she says, "Hey, I want some tilapia." I walk over to the tilapia and ask her how much she wants. She exclaims, "I want 1 pound." So I get the pound, and I'm halfway through wrapping it. Literally a couple of seconds after, she told me the amount she wanted, and she goes, "You know what? I don't want tilapia," and walks back over to the empty cocktail shrimp spot. "How much longer until the shrimp is thawed?" I look at the time on the scale. About 10 minutes now. She looks next to the cocktail shrimp spot and sees the colossal cocktail shrimp, twice as expensive and still frozen in the case, so it lasts longer. "I want 1 pound of this shrimp, but I want it for the other price." I was like, "I'm afraid I can't do that. The other shrimp is close to being thawed now. You have about 7 minutes. And besides, the shrimp is still frozen." The lady, even more agitated, goes, "This shrimp is frozen too? How long is it going to take to thaw out?" I'll admit I was trying really hard not to laugh, but I went, "For that shrimp, it'll be about 15 minutes. Just give me that shrimp frozen and I want it for the other price." So I just said, "Here, have a great day." And the guy behind her, who was patiently waiting and watching her the whole time, even though he was the first in line, said, "You handled that Karen really well." I'll be honest, I'm a little disappointed that she got what she wanted in the end. You shouldn't reward bad behavior by giving them half-price shrimp, but at the same time, maybe it was worth it to get them out of your hair. I mean, it's a small price to pay to not deal with an entitled person. Submit your story to be read on the channel at VoiceyHereStories@gmail.com and join our Voicey veteran community at r/VoiceyHere. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. Alright, Voicey veterans, I'll see you in the next one.